Justin Scott, a highly sought-after defensive line recruit in the class of 2024. I believe was supposed to be in town on Sunday, and I think some other recruits as well. I'm curious, Mike, did those players make it to South Bend?
Darren, our weekly segment here is it's just been the past few weeks. It's just Justin Scott Central. I mean, it's signing days tomorrow. I mean, it's Wednesday. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on with Notre Dame in the 2023 class at this point, unless something really changes. I'd be surprised if Notre Dame signs any new players for that traditional first Wednesday in February National Signing Day. So we're really talking all 2024s, and this is the young man we've been discussing most, Justin Scott from Chicago St. Ignatius, a top 20 player per the On3 consensus, number 3 defensive lineman, 6'5", 310 pounds. He was supposed to be on campus, not this past weekend, the weekend before, canceled that, and did not make it to campus on Sunday unless he had a secret covert mission to get to South Bend, which I do not believe was the case. Yeah, and then C.J. Carr, the Notre Dame quarterback commit from Detroit, another Chicago prospect, and Cam Williams, a commit for the Irish, and then Carson Hobbs, a cornerback pledge for Notre Dame from Cincinnati. Those guys were all supposed to be at Notre Dame this weekend with the main purpose of recruiting Scott. No one made it in because Scott didn't make it in. So no, big visit weekend for Notre Dame. No Justin Scott on campus, although you have to assume the Irish are the leader right now, but it's kind of like, leading a Monopoly game midway through, like what it's not the finish, or, having a halftime lead, and, that things can definitely change. So Notre Dame is continuing to battle for Justin Scott. February is a dead period. So the earliest, and when I say dead period, that's just a way to say no face-to-face contact between college coach and recruit. So Scott can't get to Notre Dame at the earliest until March. So you would have to believe that, he'll get to Notre Dame once or twice in the spring, and then they'll probably have him for, an official visit, whether that's May or June. So the battle for Justin Scott continues, but Notre Dame did have one prospect on campus, to my knowledge, and that was Round Rock High School, class of 2024 cornerback Leonard Moore. He's a 3-star guy. So it's actually his second time on campus. He was also at Notre Dame for Irish Invasion last year. So Notre Dame offered him, I believe it was like the 18th. So it's just a couple weeks ago. And then he quickly set up a campus trip to see Notre Dame. And Notre Dame looks to be in pretty good position early on for the 6'2", 175-pound cornerback. So, yeah, the past few weeks have been entertaining from a Notre Dame recruiting standpoint, just in terms of following this Justin Scott little saga. But otherwise, it's been pretty quiet. And then that mini saga ended up being a big nothing burger, and the Scott drama continues.
So a question about Scott, if I remember correctly, you mentioned that originally he was going to make his commitment on January 31st, which is tomorrow as we tape this, but then he delayed that particular decision. And I remember you mentioned that Georgia recently offered him. Do you think a lot of the powerhouse schools have now started offering him, and that's why he's hitting the pause button, or is there another reason? Your best guess?
Yeah, I really think it's a combination of a few things. This is, I've been covering recruiting for almost a decade now. This is something you see very often. When a player says, oh, I'm going to commit in 3 or 4 months, and then all of a sudden they push things up. And it's like, oh, that's kind of a surprise. And then, a school like Georgia, and also the Florida Gators offered him, they sit back and think, oh, wow, we really like him. We were evaluating him with this decision coming up. Let's go ahead and offer him now. So then those schools offer, and then so the kid's like, oh, I was originally going to wait, and I'm kind of rushing things a little bit. Maybe I should take things slower, go visit Georgia, maybe go visit Florida. I think it's a combination of that. He really needed to get to Notre Dame before making a decision. He hasn't been to South Bend since last July. I also wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame talked to Scott and said, hey, if you commit here, we have a policy with our commits that, if you take an official visit elsewhere, we don't really consider you a commit, because, that's basically, having a serious girlfriend and you're still dating other girls, like, having another girlfriend, your original girlfriend, thinking, we're not together. So it's kind of that situation. So I wouldn't be surprised if that even played a role in terms of Scott thinking, you know what, maybe I do want to take this slow. So Notre Dame's going to play the long game. They're going to be in this thing as until Scott says, I am not interested in you. Don't talk to me. If that ever ends up happening, Notre Dame's going to keep battling here.
You mentioned you've followed recruiting for 10 years. I've read and listened about recruiting for over 20 years now. And there's just a theme that football coaches don't think about, but it's something that fans, I think, get caught up in, that if you have a 5-star, off the chart, great quarterback in one class, the next class, it's going to be hard to get another quarterback of that caliber. CJ Carr is in the 24 class. As you look down the line, the 25 class, do you think it's going to be hard for Notre Dame to get another high-end quarterback because of the stacks of quarterbacks they have here? Or is it that classic, hey, I'm Darren Pritchett, I'm a 5-star, I can beat all these guys out, so I'm going to go there?
I think it's I think it's the latter, but also didn't Ole Miss just bring in like 3 guys? Like they brought in like 2 high school quarterbacks, like 2 transfers. Like it's crazy. I think this is just the world of college football at the quarterback position now. These top schools are just going to keep stacking talent. And you know, if I am Darren Pritchett, that 5-star quarterback, which just sounds crazy saying coming out of my mouth, but I can go play at a Notre Dame and give that a shot. And if it doesn't work, I got a free transfer. So I think that, at least from where I sit, I like what you're saying. I think that might have been a thing in years past, but I don't think it's as much anymore. You know, I think it's much more about competition. These kids all think that they're the best. And you do have the opportunity to transfer and not sit out a year now. So, but is a player maybe going to get scared off by CJ Carr? I can't rule that out, but I just think that's not going to be so much the case anymore in college football recruiting.
I'm more of a 5-star center fielder than a quarterback, to be honest. But
I think you look good on the left bench, Darren. You can just hang on the bench.
5 is the worst and 1 is the best, right? That's kind of where I am. Anyway, hey, there was a great haul by the Irish at the wide receiver position in the 23 class. I mean, just what they needed. The cupboard was getting bare, and they have not only brought in quantity, they have brought in quality in that 23 class. Now we move ahead to the 24 class. I guess a 2-part question. First off, your best guess, how many wide receivers do you think Notre Dame might want to bring in this class? And number 2, are they throwing out many offers to 24 wide receivers at this point?
Yeah, there's some positions, Darren, on the board that are just typically going to be about the same number you bring in every class. I mean, receivers, 3. You know, it's somewhere between 2 and 4, 2 in the low and 4 on the high end, but usually 3. I mean, these things depend on how many transfers or just, you know, if you have an anomaly cycle like 2022 where the Irish only signed 1 and Tobias Merriweather, but I would expect about 3. So they have a really darn good one committed in Cam Williams. I mean, he's a guy who's going to end up as a 5-star. I mean, he's the number 20 overall prospect, number 5 receiver right now, according to On3. Just had a phenomenal junior season. And someone who tests really well and camps well when you see him in person. So love Cam Williams. You know, when I was asked recently, like who's going to be the next 2024 wide receiver commit, you go down the list, there's players that Notre Dame are in the mix for, but none of them really stood out to me as someone like, yeah, Notre Dame's definitely going to get this guy. Like he's watch out for him next. So when the coaches were on the road at the latter half of January, Chancey Stuckey was very busy. He was coast to coast. He was recruiting everywhere. He was in Tampa, out to LA. I mean, the guy was everywhere. So definitely expected Notre Dame to offer more guys, and they did. This is in the all name category. This is fantastic. Quasi Gilmer from West Hills, California. Notre Dame also has a safety target, Marquise Gallegos, from that same school. So it's somewhere where Notre Dame's been recruiting pretty heavily, the past couple years. Gilmer has offers, several offers, Colorado State, Washington State, Boston College. There's not a long offer list at this point. The Irish are, in more early on this guy, 6'2", 180 pounds. He picked up his offer from Notre Dame Monday. And then this was an interesting one from Las Vegas Arbor View. I love when Notre Dame recruits out in Las Vegas. Absolutely love it. And it's really good when Notre Dame has like a commit out there or really big time target. So I'm hoping David Washington just really starts trending towards Notre Dame. So old Mike Singer can take a trip out to Vegas because my best buddy lives out there and I love Vegas. So it's always a great trip for me. So Notre Dame offered him on Friday. Interesting thing, his mom's actually from Chicago. So he's got, kind of Midwest ties there. So his mom certainly is familiar with Notre Dame. People I talk to think that Notre Dame's got a really good shot here. And Washington's 6 foot, 185 pounder, 4-star per the On3 consensus. Got a handful of offers, including Ole Miss, Michigan, and LSU, along with Notre Dame. So a couple receiver offers to keep an eye on there who Notre Dame should be in contention for.